Hello, dear learners. Welcome to teaching learning session of sociology. We are discussing the methods of sociological inquiries. In today's lecture, we'll discuss about the quantitative and qualitative methods of inquiry. We'll start with the quantitative methods. Quantitative methods of inquiry. Actually, there are two methods of inquiries: quantitative and qualitative. What is quantitative method of inquiry? In quantitative research, the presumed the presumed assumptions are tested by setting up a tentative statement or hypothesis that is either supported or nullified. What is hypothesis? Hypothesis is an educated guess. It is presumption of the researcher. And in quantitative research, the researcher tries to test the hypothesis, the guessed statement. Either the researcher accepts or rejects the hypothesis on the basis of the data, quantitative data. This test of hypothesis is done through the data collected, which finally decides the fate of hypothesis. The objective measurement with a high quality of reliability and validity is designed to collect the data. As I told you that researcher accepts or rejects the hypothesis on the basis of data. This data collection is very important in quantitative methods of inquiry. Data is collected with the help of a reliable and valid tool. The reliability and validity of tool is required. Reliability means, what is reliability? Reliability means that tool is reliable. That is, we are asking the questions according to our objectives. That our state of inquiry is not deviating from our objective. Our validity of tool is, validity means if we apply this tool to n number of groups, then we'll get the same result. Or if we apply this tool to the same group n number of times, then again we'll get the same result. That is the validity of tool. That it is not deviating, that meaning is not changing. So reliability and validity of tool is very important, and on this, with the help of this tool, the researcher collects the data, and by analyzing this data, the researcher accepts or rejects the hypothesis. Finally, the information is analyzed by using statistical procedure and hypothesis testing. After collection of data, we apply the statistical test on the data which the researcher collected, and on the basis of this analysis, either researcher accepts the hypothesis or rejects the hypothesis. See, there are steps. The first step is collection of, that is formulation of hypothesis. As I told you, what is hypothesis? It is an educated guess. On the basis of our objectives, we collect our data with the help of reliable and valid tools. After collection of data, we apply statistical methods to analyze our data. After analysis of data, we infer whether we accept our hypothesis or reject our hypothesis. The researcher tests a theory by specifying a narrow hypothesis and collection of data to support or refute the hypothesis. Quantitative research gained ground mainly in the 19th and 20th century. The main purpose of quantitative research is to investigate the causal relationship between variables. The main why we apply this quantitative technique or quantitative method on the data, the main reason is when we want to find out the causal relationship between the variable, how one variable is impacting the another variable. Current, if something is happening, how it is impacting the other variable in the society. How stress is impacting the job satisfaction, or the how examinations are impacting the stress level of the students, right? To find out the causal relationships, statistical data collection is initiated through adequate selection of observed behavior of samples. The data analysis is usually done in numerical objective form. See, in quantitative analysis, sample is very important. What is the sample? Sample represents the population under study. Suppose I want to study the stress level of the students. I cannot study all these students. I cannot collect this data from all the students from all over India, right? Suppose I want to okay, let me narrow my scope. I want to study the stress level of NCR students, let's say, right? But in NCR, there are n number of students, lakhs of students. I cannot collect data. There are certain limitations, like limitation of time, cost limitation. So I cannot collect data. I select some samples, and from those samples, I collect the data and analyze the data, and then I can accept or reject my hypothesis, right? But this sampling technique, there are the two types of sampling techniques: probability sampling technique and non-probability sampling technique. It depends on the researcher and the type of research, which technique the researcher applies, whether probability sampling technique or non-probability sampling technique. But it is very important for a researcher, while selecting the sample, that researcher should take care that that sample should not be biased, because on the basis of this sample, we interpret our results, right? We accept or reject our hypothesis. So it is very important. So we apply statistical techniques on the data collected from sample represents the population. Quantitative research is considered to be objective, precise, systematic, causal, and far wider in range. We decide the objective. Quantitative research is precise. It finds the causal relationships and far wider in range. In contrast to the qualitative research, which is more subjective. Qualitative research is subjective, while quantitative research is objective. Qualitative research is subjective, concentrated and dense, and carried a small number of subjects, while in quantitative analysis it is important to select the adequate number of samples. There are certain characteristics of quantitative research. Quantitative research tends to present observation in terms of number or numeric. As the name indicates, quantitative. Quantitative means quantity. Quantity means which we can indicate in numeric form or in terms of number. So quantitative research tends to present observation in terms of number or numeric. Another common character of quantitative research is its tendency to engage more of empirical methods and statements. The technique applied for gathering data in quantitative research are many. There are many techniques which we can apply to collect the data, like interviews. To collect the data, researcher can conduct the interviews. Interviews could be of, again, interviews could be of many types. Then in quantitative techniques, data can be collected with the help of questionnaires. Questionnaires could be open questionnaire or closed type of questionnaire, or closed type. In open question, we'll discuss about this open and closed questions, while we'll discuss about the qualitative technique. Then experimental research is there. Numerical data is collected and analysis is done through mathematically based models steeped in statistical technique. After collecting the data with the help of tools or the techniques like questionnaires, like surveys or interviews, and then we apply various statistical techniques to analyze the data. Like we can apply t-test, chi-square test, ANOVA test. There are many statistical tests or the techniques which we can apply to analyze these data. The quantitative research measures social reality in some form or other, but usually in a precise, objective, and integral shape. Difference between the qualitative and quantitative research. Qualitative research intends to explain inferences in terms of individual unit. In qualitative research, we give importance to individual unit. Qualitative research tends to split up each phenomenon into individual cases to facilitate the mode of explanation, while it is not the case with quantitative research. The core goal of qualitative research is explanation of outcome in individual cases. In qualitative research, basically, we study an individual cases. Stages of quantitative research. There are various stages of quantitative research. Though there are difference of many kinds between qualitative and quantitative research, but there are some phases which are common to both qualitative and quantitative research. The stages of quantitative research, first is problem formulation. The first stage of quantitative research is problem formulation. First of all, we formulate the problem. That it means what we want to study. Suppose I want to study the impact of job satisfaction level or the impact of stress on the job satisfaction of employee of XYZ company. So I want to study the impact of job satisfaction, impact of stress on the job satisfaction level of XYZ company. This is the problem identification. What for problem formulation or identification? First of all, we formulate the problem. Then study of design. Then we design our studies. Study of design includes many things. While after formulating the problem, we go through various literature. Literature means work done by the researcher. Whether some work has been done by the researcher on this topic or not, we go through those literature so that we can find out the research gap, and from that research gap we can formulate our objectives and hypotheses. This is design of study, and in this we determine the size of the sample, we determine the population and the size of the sample. What size of sample should I collect from my study? What should be the correct, what type of so what should be my sample size, and then we collect the data from that sample. Then the next point is data collection, and then we decide the techniques for the collection of data. After that, after deciding the sample size, after estimating the sample size and the tools or the techniques to collect the data, we start collecting the data. The next step is, the third step is the collection of data. Then we apply those techniques, we implement those techniques and start collecting the data. After that, after collection of data is data processing and data analysis. Then we apply various statistical techniques to analyze the collected data. After analysis, we interpret that data, we infer that data, and then we start writing our research reports. After interpretation, we try to find out whether our hypothesis is accepted or rejected, right? Whether there is some impact of stress on job satisfaction level or not, or if yes, then what are the reasons or the causes behind this, right? So first of all, we formulate the problem, then we go through the various literature. After that, we design our study. After study design, we collect the data. After data collection, we apply various statistical tools and technique. Then and by applying those tools and technique, we analyze our data, and then we interpret our findings, right? Problem formulation in quantitative research it is a tricky step where we pause question to assess the mood of the entire setting. It is necessary that research questions are lucid enough to be comprehensive for the respondents. Research questions, before being paused, are always screened for their practicality and their feasibility of implementation. Follow after this episode is critical review of literature, which may be quite rigorous and exhaustive. This is very welcome step for the deductive quantitative studies. Specify the hypothesis variables, which will be soon followed by the conceptualization and operationalization. I discussed about all these steps of literature review. While quantitative deductive studies starts with hypothesis, inductive qualitative studies, on the other hand, wait and observe and let the hypotheses emerge by themselves. This is the basic difference between the qualitative and quantitative study. In quantitative studies start with hypothesis, while the qualitative study wait and watch and till wait and watch and observe and let the hypotheses emerge by themselves, right? That researcher never formulate the hypothesis in qualitative research. The concept that the researcher has in mind while conducting an investigation is called a variable. What is variable? Important thing in research is variable. What is variable? Anything whose value varies is a variable, right? That is variable. X is a variable, y is a variable, that the value varies. Variable is very important in research. The concepts are mental picture that ranges from attribute easily observable like gender, height, blood group, to social attributes difficult to observe like confidence, mental health, prejudices, discrimination, etc. In social sciences research, variable could be anything which could you observe easily, like age could be the variable, it changes. Gender could be a variable, height could be a variable, blood group could be a variable, or mental status could be a variable. ठीक है, discrimination could be a variable, job satisfaction could be a variable, self efficacy could be a variable. Such concept turns into variable as their degree or quantum varies across the continuum. As I told you, variable is anything whose value varies. And in quantitative research, the researcher tries to find out the relationship between the two or more variables. As I told you, I had formulated a problem that I want to check out the job satisfaction level and the stress level of the employees of XYZ company, right? And then in my studies, in my this hypothesis or in my study, there are the two variable: job satisfaction and the stress. I want to find out the relationship between the two variable, whether there is some relationship in the job satisfaction level and the stress level of employees, whether the stress is impacting the job satisfaction level or not. So, in quantitative research or in quantitative studies, researcher try to find out the relationship or the relationship between two or more variable. As I told you, that in quantitative studies, researcher tries to find out the causal relationship between the variables. Change in one variable is likely to usher a change in another variable. It could be possible or might not be. But we want to find out whether change in one variable is impacting the change in another variable or is ushering a change in another variable, right? Such anticipatory relationship is called a hypothesis. It is an educated guess. Hypothesis is a tentative and assumed statement that presupposes that modification in one variable is likely to instigate the change in another variable. Suppose if I give a statement that there is a relationship between the stress and job satisfaction level of employees of XYZ company. This is my hypothesis. This is my educated guess. There are certain types of variables, and there is a mutual relationship between the variables. Variables could be the dependent variable or the independent variable. Basically, there are many types of variable like dependent variable, the independent variable, mediating variable, moderating variable. What is dependent variable and independent variable? Independent variable is that variable which influences the other variable. That is independent one variable. If a variable which is influencing the value of another variable is an independent variable. Come back to our example. We have two variables: stress and job satisfaction level. We want to find out whether any change in the stress level of employee impacts the job satisfaction level of the employee. So stress, the value of the stress variable is impacting the value of the job satisfaction variable. This stress variable is independent variable. Any change in the stress can change the value. Maybe, may or may not be. This is a question ki whether the value of stress is changing, is impacting the value of job satisfaction level. But we are studying this stress is independent variable because any change in the value of the stress variable is impacting the value of the job satisfaction. So variable that influences the other variable is independent variable. While a variable that is being influenced is called the dependent variable. That job satisfaction is dependent variable because the value of the job satisfaction depends on the value of the stress level. If the stress level goes up, then it might be possible that the job satisfaction level might go down. Right? So this job satisfaction is dependent variable because variable that is being influenced is dependent variable. Then there might be some additional variables which may be applied to magnify the relationship between the dependent and independent variable. Right? These two are dependent and independent variable, but there are certain another variable which impact the relationship of the two variables. These variable that link up the dependent and independent variable is mediating variable or intervening variable. These variable impacts the direct relationship between the variable, between the independent and the dependent variable, right? Positive relationship infer a direct relationship between the variables in the sense that they assume a symmetric relationship such that if one variable changes the direction, the other treads the same path. Suppose if the stress level increases, the job satisfaction level, if job satisfaction level also increases, then there is a positive relationship between the variables. If one variable, it means there is a direct relationship between the variable. If one variable is changing in one way, is showing a one path, the another is observing the same path. If stress level is increasing, job satisfaction level is increasing. If stress level is decreasing, job satisfaction level might be decreased, right? Or a negative or inverse relationship is that is change in one variable, that variable will move in opposite direction, such that if one increases, the other value of other will decrease. That stress level, if there is increase in the stress level, then there will be decrease in the that job satisfaction level will go down, right? We discussed about the variables. We discussed about the dependent variable, independent variable, mediating variable. Mediating variable is a variable which impacts the relationship between the dependent and independent variable. Like if I'll give you an example of mediating variable, say if I want to find out the e-commerce behavior, right? E-commerce behavior, if I want to find out the purchasing power, right? The purchasing consumer perception or the purchasing habits of consumer, right? And if I study it on the basis of the gender, then this gender is mediating variable. Then level of measurement. See, as I told you, variable is what? A variable is anything whose value varies. Value is we have to measure the value. So there are levels of measurement. Variables in quantitative research design can be operationally divided up to four level of measurement. How we will measure the level of these variables? We measure these variables in four levels: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scale of measurement. There are four scales of measurement. On the basis of these four scales, we measure our variables: nominal scale of measurement, ordinal scale of measurement, interval scale of measurement, and ratio scale of measurement. Nominal scale of measurement is where um, uh, uh, in this is actually we categorize in this we categorize our variables. Suppose I want to find out, I make a group on the basis of gender, male and female, and one represents the male and two represents the female. Both nominal, ordinal, Interval and ratio scales represents are the we measure these are the quantitative measures. These are the quantitative levels of measurement. But in nominal scale, we cannot apply the arithmetic operations. It is just to categorize the values. Suppose I want to represent 1 by female and 2 by female by 2. ठीक है, तो one, if it is written something, if I want to, if one represents the male and two represents the female, but I cannot apply any arithmetic operations on the nominal scale, nominal data. While in ordinal scale, again ordinal scale is um, again ordinal scale. In ordinal scale there is no definite distance, no definite distance is described. Like if I give you a questions, are you satisfied with the purchases, with your purchases, or how do you find the our customer services, are you satisfied our customer services? Rank it from 1 to 3, on either 1 to 3. 1 means bad, 2 means good, 3 means excellent, right? So the distance between this good, bad and excellent is not well defined, but 1 is representing the bad, 2 represents the good, and 3 represents excellent. So when we give questions like this, we use the ordinal scale of measurement. Then comes again on ordinal scale, we cannot apply the arithmetic operations. Then interval scale, in interval scale we can apply arithmetic operations, we can carry out arithmetic operation, but again there is no definite starting point in interval scale. Ratio scale, again ratio scale, we can apply arithmetic operation, but there is a definite starting point, right? This is level of measurements. Approaches to quantitative research, there are two approaches: experimental and non-experimental research. Non-experimental research design. In this kind of study, none of the variables are tampered with and research is carried out without any sort of manipulation. Three kinds of non-experimental research are usually observed, and these are descriptive research design, correlational research, and causal comparative research. Descriptive research design. In this form of research design, the task of researcher is just to describe and explicit the conditions, settings, and the locale of variables as they occur naturally without disturbing its point of origin. We just describe the variables. We just describe the conditions. There can be generally four kinds of descriptive research: observational research, case study descriptive research, archival analysis, and survey research. Observational research or field research is a type of correlational or non-experimental type of research where researcher is engaged in observing a currently occurring behavior. The researcher just observe the currently occurring behavior. There are different type of observational research. Again, observational research is of non-participant observation and the participant observation, right? Non-participant observation is where the researcher is not the part of that research, is doesn't take part in that activity, and participant observation is where researcher become the part of that activity. After becoming the part of, he tries to understand the process. Then next type of research, descriptive research, is case study research. It is a special type of non-experimental research. Here the basics all of case study is that it tries to throw light on a decision or set of decision, why they were taken, how they were implemented, and with what result. We try to explain a particular case. Then a survey method is method of collecting data in a systematic way. In survey method, we collect the data in a systematic way. Data collection in a quantitative research, that is survey research. As I told you, it is we collect the data in a systematic way. How we collect the data? We collect the data in survey result with the help of instruments like questionnaires, like interviews. What is questionnaire? Questionnaire has been coined to refer to a bunch of questions. Questionnaire is a term that has been coined to refer a bunch of questions when we ask a bunch of questions from the participant. The questionnaires are given to the respondent, which they are supposed to fill up. The given data give the researcher enough information to analyze. When the participants fill up the questionnaires, give the answers to our question, then the researcher gets the data for analysis. The question asked can be of two types: open-ended question and a closed-ended question. Open-ended question is when the respondent is asked to fill in their own way without giving them any option to choose from. What do you think about, or how, so say example, if I ask how can you suggest us how can we improve our customer care facilities, this is open-ended question. Through open-ended question, though open-ended question can be seen both in qualitative and quantitative research, they are mostly significant in quantitative research. And closed-ended question, the respondent is asked to select their preferred answer from the enlisted answer. Rate our services from 1 to 5. This is closed-ended question. Do you agree with this statement? Agree, neither agree nor disagree, and disagree. Choose either agree, neither agree nor disagree, or disagree. This is closed-ended question. They are extremely popular in quantitative research for they help to generate more uniform and consistent replies and can be more conveniently analyzed. In quantitative research, basically we use closed-ended question because of consistent replies and convenience of analysis. There are certain guidelines for framing the questions. What are those guidelines? Clarify your items, avoid double barreled questions, respondent must have enough competency, should be able to understand your questions, question must be relevant enough, don't ask irrelevant questions, unnecessary questions, questioner should not suffer from biasedness, and cultural sensitivity matter. It is very important for a researcher while framing the question that he should take care about the cultural sensitivity. There should be no question. There should be no question in the questionnaire which is culturally sensitive. Next is quantitative correlational research. Correlational research is a type of non-experimental research where researcher measures two variables and tries to find out the statistical correlations between them. Is there any relationship between the variables without manipulating or controlling the independent or external variable? Causal comparative research. The causal comparative research is usually applied to identify cause effect nexus. That is when we want to find out the cause and effect. That is the impact of stress on job satisfaction level. That is causal comparative research. To diagnose the impact of difference that was known to be present between the two groups. Suppose causal comparative research is if I want to find out the impact of drug on a certain type of illness. If I observe certain sample before administering the drug, and then I observe the same type of same samples after administering the drug. Now I want to find out the impact or the results of drugs, right? Is there any improvement in their health condition? This type of research is causal comparative research, right? Then experimental research is any kind of research conducted with scientific approach where bunch of variable are kept constant while other bunch of variable is being measured as measure of experiments, right? So quantitative methods, we discussed about the quantitative methods. What are the quantitative methods? We discussed about the steps of quantitative methods. We discussed about the variables. We discussed about the scale, measurement scales of quantitative method. Then we discussed about the limitations of quantitative methods and the types of quantitative methods. Now let's move to the qualitative method of inquiries. Qualitative methods or qualitative research investigates those dimensions of life which are not suitable for quantitative or objective analysis. In quantitative, we apply the quantitative method where we want to analyze the things objectively. But where that objective analysis is not possible, then we investigate those dimensions with the help of qualitative methods. There are these are connected to the theories of positivism, post foundationalism, post positivism, post structuralism, and many areas of cultural and interpretative study. What are the goals of qualitative research? Qualitative research helps us to undertake an in depth study of objects we desire to study. Unlike the quantitative research, the qualitative research do not draw upon the representative and the ideal sample to infer upon, but do just the contrary. As I told you, in quantitative research, we cannot study the whole population. From that population, we take out some samples, and on the basis of those samples, we carry out those studies. But this is not with the case of qualitative research. Qualitative research do not draw upon the representative or the ideal sample. They instead focus on a fragment of a larger population to make approximate and detailed analysis. Rather than working on a sample, on a small sample, or taking out a sample from population, the qualitative research focuses on the larger population to make out the proximate and detailed analysis. That is the basic difference. The goal of qualitative research is to find out the reason behind the occurrence of the phenomenon rather than pondering about the content and the scope of research matter in question. We try to find out the reason why such phenomenon is happening in the society in qualitative research. In quantitative research, we try to find out the content and the scope of research matter. We try to find out the scope and we define the scope of our research in quantitative method. The basic idea is to find out why people act the way they do rather than rigorously sketching the gross outline of their behavior. Sociologists believe that qualitative research is particularly well suited to study of family processes on several levels of analysis, avoiding the traditional micro macro dichotomy in sociology, as well as the equally untenable objective subjective polarity. So, according to sociologists, Qualitative research is particularly well suited to study the society. Qualitative research is most frequently engaged in discovering or exploring new facts and making revolution instead of making verifications and reviews. In quantitative study, a researcher verifies the existing facts or reviews the facts, while in qualitative study, the researcher tries to find out or discover the new facts. New studies bring out many unknown dimensions of known facts. The researcher therefore help to discover new rituals, pattern of behavior and social structure and processes. Qualitative studies, many unknown dimension comes out, and a researcher and this helps to find out the new structure, new processes, new rituals, and the social behaviors. Qualitative research is immensely enriched by ethnologists that seek to understand the scope and extent of naturally occurring behavior and its synchronization with the social environment in relation to which individual adjusted its behavior. We discussed about all this in ethnomethodology. So this ethnologist enriched this qualitative research. The 8 moments of qualitative research. Now let's trace its historical journey. The first is the traditional phase from 1900 to 1950. It begins from 1900 and trail till Second World War. The field experiences of this time were colonizing efforts to write precise and objective reports. The first phase was the traditional phase, which started at 1900, and in this phase, the field experiences of this time, the field experiences of World War II, and were written in precise and objective reports. Second is modernist or golden phase, that is from 1950 to 70. The researcher of this period, especially the modern ethnographer and the sociologist, were trying hard to rigorously build upon the canons of qualitative research. Important social processes like the social crime, deviance, conformity, etc., were studied in detail through proper application of qualitative research practices. So, this study of the qualitative research practices were were used to study the facts like social crime, deviances, conformity. It is the golden phase or the modernist phase of qualitative research. At this juncture, new interpretative perspectives like ethnomethodology, phenomenology, critical theory, and feminism were making inroads in the academic scenario. These new schools often used qualitative research practices to articulate their views and ideas, especially in favor of underclass. Ethnomethodologists, phenomenologists, feminists, critical theorists, they all used qualitative method to articulate their ideas or views. Then comes the blood genres, that is 1900 and from 1970 to 86. In this period saw the thriving of qualitative research practices, its paradigm, model, and methods. Diverse theories like symbolic interactionism, constructivism, naturalistic inquiry, positivism, and post-positivism, phenomenology, ethnomethodology, critical theory, neo-Marxist theory, semantics, structuralism, and feminism, etc. This was the golden period, or this is the period where there were diverse theories came up. The crisis of representation, the mid 1980s. The work during this time were reflexive and critical, for they called into question sensitive areas of caste, class, and gender, ethnicity that were taken at their face values before. The essential difference between the writing and field work finally melted and blurred. This creates a crisis in representation that gives a qualitative research a new vista. This era has given uh, uh, qualitative research a new vista. ICT in social research, use of information communication technology in social research. Information communication technology plays an important role in social research. ICT refers to such technologies that provide us access to vast body of knowledge through telecommunication. Now we can access our journals, theses, papers with the help of internet communication technology. It provides us an access to vast body of knowledge. This may include a wide range of communication technologies like internet, wireless network, cellular phones, and of course other mode of communications. Application of ICT in social research. What is the application of ICT in social research? How can we apply information communication technology in social research? First is application of ICT in pre-data collection and analysis. We can use ICT in first phase, that is the pre-data collection and analysis, that is in literature review. We can go through various literature, we can go through various papers, we can go through various journals, various theses or work done by the previous researcher, and on the basis of those that we can formulate our objectives and find out the research, we can find out the research gap, and on the basis of that research gap we can formulate our objectives and the hypothesis. Now there is no need to go to visit to libraries physically. With the help of ICT, various libraries are available online. We can access those libraries or the content of the libraries. Then application of ICT in data collection and analysis, then we can use information technology in data collection, that is we can make a Google questionnaire and can or we can distribute our questionnaire with the help of internet. We can ask question with the help of our mobile phone or the phones, right? And then we can analyze our data with the help of ICT, information communication technology, that various softwares like R, SPSS, MATLABs, various softwares are available which helps in our data analysis. We can analyze our data with the help of these softwares, and then we can interpret our results. Then application of ICT in post data collection and analysis, that with after analyzing the data we can write our paper or thesis with the help of laptop or the desktop, and then we can publish our papers or thesis online, right? That is what I explained you. Application of ICT in pre-data collection and analysis through literature review, right? Soon as we choose the research problem, we move into the research literature review. Task will be to find out the research gap and then to look up for the ways to address that gap or to resolve such gaps. Like Shodh Ganga. What is Shodh Ganga? It is the name termed to denote digital repository of Indian electronic thesis and dissertation, set up by Inflab, InflabNet Center. The Shodh Ganga provide us with a platform for the research scholar to deposit their doctoral thesis so that it could be made available to the entire scholarly community in open access mode. If you will type Shodh Ganga on the Google, you will go to the Shodh Ganga website. Then you can access n number of thesis, doctoral thesis, right? Various doctoral theses are available, and you can access those theses. Then Mendeley. What is Mendeley? Mendeley is a company based in London, which is a provider of product and services required for academic research. It provides the services which is required for the academic research, and it is best known for its services for reference management, which is extensively used for managing and sharing the research papers. If you go through any research paper, this Mendeley helps you to manage your references. Then you don't need to find out your references again. It manage your references. It alongside generates the bibliographies for scholarly articles. These functions greatly help our literature review. For Mendeley has a very strong data set. Alongside it, take care to cite the article we use in our literature review. Many articles are available. You can access articles and it has been citation of our article in our literature review. But then another is Google Scholar. It is a freely accessible web search engine that indexes the full text or metadata of scholarly literature across the collection of publishing format and discipline. It includes most peer-reviewed online academic journals, books, conference papers, theses, dissertation, preprint abstracts, technical reports, and other scholarly literature. Through Google Scholar, you can you can go through various articles. Then Microsoft Academic is a free public web search engine for academic publication and literature. It has been developed by Microsoft Research. It had been launched in 2016 to emerge with totally new data structure and search engine. Again, like Google Scholar, Microsoft Academic is a web search engine for academic publication and literature. Application of ICT in collection and analysis of data. As I told you, I explained it earlier. How can we apply ICT? That is, we can forward our questionnaire with the help of internet, right? We can make our questions on the Google and various other websites, various other platforms are available, right? We can analyze our data using various softwares. Application of ICT in post data collection and analysis, that is citation in research and ICT. We can check our plagiarism with the help of ICT, and then we can publish our research finding on the net. So that is how the ICT helps in our research. It helps in pre uh, applications of pre data collection, then it could be applied in that application of ICT in the data collection and the post data collections. So today we discussed about the quantitative methods of data collection in sociology, the qualitative method of data collection in sociology, and use of information technology in sociological inquiries. Quantitative method, the quantitative method is objective while qualitative method is subjective. All right, that depends on the researcher which type of method he wants to implement, whether the qualitative method or the quantitative method, and then we can use ICT in our research. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.